One of my Dominican brothers, long since gone to God, wasn't great at picking his audience or occasion. He was legendary, for instance, for preaching on contraception in nursing homes. He used also to promise to give him hell at Christmas, as he thought that was the likely destination for those who only attended annually. Well, I can promise you I won't be preaching about hell this Christmas. Nonetheless, in this November month of the dead, I've reflected with you on death, heaven, and purgatory. This week we look fair and square at hell, that state described in our gospel parable as being thrown into the outer darkness where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Our epistle about the day of the Lord and our gospel about the final accounting invite our reflection on what it is that fits us for heaven or for hell. In Jesus' day, a talent was the equivalent of 16 years' salary for a labourer. To receive 5 talents, or even 2, was to be extraordinarily graced. Even 1 was no small gift. When God created man in his own image, sharing his powers of intelligence and freedom, creativity and love, he was investing in us big time. But it was a cosmic gamble, for we can do noble things with our freedom, or else wreak hatred and destruction. In today's parable, most recognise the gift for what it is and take the path of appreciation and aspiration. When the master returns for the great accounting, they thank him for the talents, recount the good they have done with them, and are rewarded with heaven. But one section of humanity respond in a passive-aggressive way, describing the talents as a burden and taking the way of fear, apathy, and resistance to their own destruction. Many people are uncomfortable with talk of hell. These days, preachers rarely broach the subject. Fair enough. We should be uncomfortable with the thought of hell. It is a terrible fate to be avoided at all costs, and we are right to concentrate on heaven. Some artists and hellfire preachers got rather too excited about the Gothic horrors of hell, leading others to write the whole thing off as myth invented to frighten people into compliance. Problem is, the biblical authors spoke of hell. Jesus did too, especially in that Gospel of Matthew we've been reading continuously this year. And the Catholic tradition is equally convinced. Well, some respond, it's logically possible to go to hell, but hopefully there's no one at home there. The merciful God, who is the premise of our faith in heaven and purgatory, wants no one to be separated from him forever. Well, one traditional answer to this paradox has been to say that salvation is testimony to God's mercy, damnation, testimony to his justice. The blood of innocents cries out for vengeance against the likes of Cain, Judas, Hitler, and Stalin. Some guys are just too wicked. It would be unjust to everyone else, and even to them, to reward them with heaven. But that seems to suggest that there are two gods, or one with a split personality, soft and loving enough to receive most into heaven, but hard and demanding enough to consign some to hell. How are we to reconcile these things? Well, for the past 2 Sundays, we've considered together the merciful doctrines of heaven and purgatory. Today, let me dare propose to you the merciful doctrine of hell. What, you say? How could he think of hell as mercy? Well, consider the alternatives. God could have set things up so heaven is inevitable, discounting any wrong we've done in this life and requiring everyone to join him in heaven. But when God created us, he entrusted us with an extraordinary talent: freedom. He will not force us to love him, join him, obey him. That would be to make us puppets, slaves, pets, and be no love at all. It would be like Henry Ford saying you can have any colour of car you like as long as it's black. God does everything he can, short of denying our dignity and freedom, to draw us to himself. But in the end, like a parent anxious for their adult child leaving home, he loves us enough to treat us as free agents. We cannot be united with God unless we freely choose to love him, says the Catechism. If we freely choose not to love him, it will break the Sacred Heart. But our choice is respected. In that case, wouldn't it be better if God annihilated the damned, put them out of their misery? Spiritual euthanasia might attract some in our contemporary culture. But God created us not just free like himself, but also immortal, with souls promised continued existence and bodies promised resurrection. A merciful God keeps his promises. If he didn't, we couldn't predict or plan, commit or choose. If he gives us the talent of immortality, it's ours to invest how we will. But he will never take it away. He loves us too much to say, "Do as I want, or I'll scrub you out." So my thought for you today, then, is that divine love requires that we neither be forced to choose heaven, nor be annihilated if we don't. Which leaves us with only one other possibility: that we are free, in fact, to choose hell. Hell, as the Catechism observes, is a radical possibility of human freedom, as is love itself. This is what Pope Benedict meant when he spoke of the terrifying thought that some people totally destroy their desire for truth and readiness to love, so that all is beyond remedy and the destruction of good irrevocable. This is what we mean by the word hell, he said. And hell is thus not so much a punishment by a divine judge as it is definitive self-exclusion from communion with God and the saints. Likewise, Pope Francis, who seems to speak about the devil and his realm every other week, and far more than his two predecessors put together. He warns against explaining evil away as if it were just myth or bad human structures. Evil, he insists, is very real and exists precisely in angelic and human persons freely choosing to act against God's will. We are shaping our eternity right now. In our daily choices, and generally speaking, people die as they have lived. In his recent encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, the Holy Father names evil 16 times, including the forces of evil, the abyss of evil, and the personal evil at work in hearts and so destructive of fraternity. He's all too aware of evil in the world also, in those greater than human evils such as Auschwitz and Hiroshima, both premonitions of hell. And so as we come to the end of our liturgical year, and what a year it's been, we face a stark choice. We can, like the damned servant, renounce God's gifts and resist his every attempt to save us. We can make ourselves impervious to grace and forgiveness, turning not only justice against us, but mercy also. We should be under no illusion about the consequences, the frustration and emptiness of eternal separation from God. Much better, then, to take our talents of freedom, immortality, and more, and with them make our little bit of the world a better place, and ready ourselves for the heavenly banquet.